Hello, everyone. My name is Jolene Shannon, and I'm going to be doing a professional development for you on creating an effective survey in your classroom. A little bit about me if you haven't seen any of my other professional development videos. My name is Jolene Shannon. I am the lead faculty for the Health Administration Services program at Ross. I also teach for several other online colleges in their allied health programs. I have my associate's degree in medical assisting, my bachelor's degree in healthcare education, and my master's degree in education with a specialization in teaching and learning with technology. I have over 13 years of clinical healthcare experience and 6 years of higher education experience. So that's a little bit about me. So let's go ahead and dive into this topic, creating surveys for your classroom. Surveys can be really fun. It's a really fun tool that you can use in your classroom. You can do surveys to find out just about anything that you want to know. A lot of times, um, you can do surveys to find out if the students, like what you're doing as a teacher. You can ask questions in the survey about what the students, would like to see improved on, what they enjoyed, to find out about you as an instructor. But you can also use surveys for educational purposes. For instance, if you're doing a topic on diabetes and you want to do a short survey before you get into the discussion, um, regarding what they know about diabetes, the different types, type 1 and type 2, just to kind of see where your students are at, like a baseline of where they're at. And it's a fun learning tool that gets them involved. You can also use surveys at the beginning of the class to find out where your students are at as far as like time management, things that might get in their way for education as far as families, other jobs. So there's endless possibilities for using surveys in the classroom. So if you want to consider doing a survey in your classroom, you want to first ask yourself, what is the goal of your survey? So what is the purpose of your survey? What are you going to try to test or measure? And that's kind of what we just talked about. Like you need, to kind of have an idea. So you should start by giving your survey a title. Um, you know, maybe diabetes. What do you know? That could be a title. Or it could be faculty survey. Tell me what you think of the class. Any title that you want to use. With the title of the survey, your participants will have in mind what the goal is when they see the survey, and they'll kind of know what they're getting into. So it kind of helps to set the tone. So, writing effective surveys. When you're doing a survey, oops, sorry about that. Let me get back to where I was. When you're doing your survey, you don't want it to be super long. Students, well, anybody, I mean, all of you have probably participated in some sort of a survey, but anybody doesn't like to sit and take a survey that lasts forever and ever. So you want to kind of keep it short, use plain English, nothing that's too difficult, no big words that, maybe only you know and your students don't know. So you want that participants to be clear about what they're reading. I usually like to keep mine less than 10 questions, and even like up to 5 questions, I think is good. But you can even do a survey with 1 or 2 questions. It just depends on what, your optimal goal is for the survey. You should ask one question at a time when you're doing the survey to keep focus on the topic. And you should avoid showing your influence. Like, should all good mothers go to church? Kind of shows that you think good mothers go to church. So you shouldn't like say that in that way. Um, you should find ways to say it that aren't discriminatory or showing what you think so the students will answer what you think they should answer, to try to get on your good side or whatever. So you definitely don't want to use influence questions like that. So you also want to allow the respondent to answer comfortably, which would be your student. Giving options like I don't know as one of the um, answers. So that way they have a way out if they don't know. Um, or you can say indifferent or don't have an opinion. So, like if you're asking a question, um, about the classroom and how they feel about the instructor's teaching style, you want to have something in there that is not just a yes or no question, so that way they have a way out if they cannot answer completely. You could also leave areas for comments so the participant can explain further, and this is good so that you, especially if you're trying to get results about how you're doing as an instructor or about a certain topic that you're teaching, because this way, it can even go into further detail as far as yes or no, then you can learn even more about what the student wants. Timing of the survey. So you should definitely consider the timing of the survey. If you want to do one at the end of the class for students to leave feedback about how the class went, that's definitely a timing situation. So you would want to make sure that they have enough time to get that done. So you would want to do it maybe a week and a half to a week before the class ends. Is it at the beginning of the class to help get information for how the class is taught? That way you would want to just roll it out the first day of class. That way the students have it there as they start to get to know the class. They can take it within that first week or so. So timing is definitely important as well, depending on what your survey topic is. Sequencing questions. You should set up your questions in a nice sequenced flow. Oops, sorry about that, guys. You definitely don't want to just jump from topic to topic because that's really confusing for the students. It kind of makes their brain jump from one topic to another, and it can make them disinterested in the whole point of the survey. So make sure that everything's in a nice sequence flow. One technique to consider would be the funnel technique, which is where you start with a broad topic and then narrow down the questions. So you might, and I'm going back to the example of if you're doing a survey on how well the class went for the students, what they think about the course. You might want to start with, saying overall, how did you feel about the course? And then they have selections that they can choose from. And then you can kind of narrow it down to more in-depth topics like, did you feel the instructor gave enough information on the topics every week? And then, so that you're going from the broad topic of how do you feel the whole class went to, little detailed questions, which can definitely help the students kind of zone in. And also, you want to make sure that the most difficult questions should be placed in the middle. So that way it gets easier as the survey ends. And if the more difficult questions are in the middle, then as the survey is ending, the students can kind of wind down, feel good about the survey, and then it comes to a close. Feedback. You will have to determine how the survey will be distributed and collected. So in an online class, you'll have to give some sort of a deadline. So like we talked about before, if it's at the beginning of the class, you can ask them to do it by the end of the first week. If it's at the end of the class, you can roll it out before the last week and ask them to have it in by the last day of class. So you definitely want to make sure that there's a deadline involved, because if you just throw out, hey, take this survey, people are probably going to forget about it. Sending out reminders for the survey is a good idea. And when you get your results, you're going to want to share those results depending on what the survey is with your students or your managers. Now, if it's a survey about how well the students think that you did in the classroom, you're obviously not going to share that with the students, but you might want to share that with your managers. If it is a survey about, let's go back to the example from the beginning about like diabetes. What do you know about the different types of diabetes? Then that would be a fun thing and an educational thing to share with your students. 60% of the students knew that there was type 1, type 2, and gestational. 20% didn't, to see where we're at. And that's kind of fun, and that can really be an educational tool that the students get involved in the online classroom. Negative feedback. The bad part of having surveys, depending on what the topic is that you will get negative feedback. And a lot of you viewing this professional development know that because you're teachers and you have to read your survey results that the students do on you. And sometimes there will be negative feedback. So we have to keep that in mind if we are going to perform surveys. So basically, surveys are getting the opinions of other people. So you have to be prepared to listen to suggestions and criticism. I mean, after all, if we are doing a survey on how we're doing as an instructor, we want to improve. So we definitely want to listen to these suggestions because it can improve us as a teacher. Try not to take negative comments personally, but use it to grow and become better. So, a lot of times when I'm reading my survey results or end of class observations that I get at some of the courses I teach, I use that to my advantage. Sometimes you will get one negative comment, and you can almost always guess which student it is that said it. And it really doesn't have anything to do with you. It's just that student had a hard time and was just not happy with the course overall, so they want to be a negative nanny. But if you get random things like, I really enjoyed the class, but I felt like the instructor could have participated in the discussion more. Well, that gives you an opportunity for next quarter to try that. I've gotten some negative comments as far as I felt like my grading information and feedback wasn't detailed enough. So then when I go to grade for the next quarter, I try to keep that in mind so that I can add more detail for the students. So all of these things are things you might not know that you were doing that could be helpful in your growth process as an instructor. You should respond to any large complaints that are specific to you. Sometimes all it takes is reaching out to that person for their mind to change in a positive way. So if you ever do get any big complaints, you definitely want to share that with your manager. And if you know the student, or if it's for a specific thing that took place during the class, reaching out to that student might be a good idea. Like I mentioned before, sometimes students just aren't happy. You can tell them that you're not going to let them turn in a late discussion, and that can make them not like you for the rest of the class, even though that's the class policy. And we've all been through things like that. So just keep in mind there are some people that are not going to be happy just because we follow the rules and won't let them turn in an assignment. Of course, those things we don't want to take personally. We just have to realize that's part of being a teacher. But there can be complaints, that are big enough that we want to talk with our managers about. I've never had one that's been huge like that, but if it's something that's big that you're concerned about, definitely share it with your manager, or if it's something that you can take care of with that student, if you know which student it is, like if they give a particular comment and you know exactly which student it is because you know what they were talking about, you can take that up with the student. So results processing. We've done our survey, the students have taken it, we've gotten our results. Online surveys such as SurveyMonkey, which I'm going to show you SurveyMonkey after we're done with the PowerPoint so that you guys can go through a survey and see what it's like. But online surveys such as SurveyMonkey will tally your results into categories and percentages, which is great. You can take the information there and use it to decide on changes and your end result of whatever the topic was, which brings us back to the goal of the survey. So if your goal is to determine if you are an effective teacher, you can use the results to see where you need to make changes and become more effective, or if you are doing well. So obviously we're going to use the results to benefit the classroom, the topic, us as a teacher, whatever the survey is for. And lastly, always remember to say thank you in your survey. Always thank your participants for completing the survey. You can even offer an incentive if you're allowed to at that school, like maybe a few bonus points or something. Or if it's an on-ground classroom, some treats. I made this PowerPoint when I was teaching on ground. Or something like that if they complete the survey. So, you can do that. You have to take that up with your faculty manager. But maybe you could give a couple bonus points for doing the survey, which is always beneficial. Your participants are more likely to take future surveys if they know you were grateful. So just make sure you reach out to them and say thank you. And more than just a thanks for taking the survey, but really, really thank them. I really appreciate you taking this survey. I really want to do well as an instructor, and your feedback means so much to me. Stuff like that. Add the juicy stuff that really makes them feel like they were an important part of the process. Okay, so let's look at SurveyMonkey. Sorry, let me get out of all this. Okay, so this is SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey.com is where you go. You can sign in and create an account. It is free. They do have a program that costs money, as all places do, where you can do even more things with your survey. But I have always done fine with the free version. It has this upgrade thing up here that you can upgrade. But like I said, I've always done fine with the free version. If you want to get crazy creative with your surveys, then maybe you would want to upgrade. There are other sites other than SurveyMonkey where you can do surveys, but I really like SurveyMonkey. It's really aesthetically pleasing. It's really easy to set up. So yeah, I enjoy it. So let's take a look at a survey that I've made. Okay, we're going to preview this survey. So this is a survey that I made, and I just titled it Hi because I was just playing around with it. And this is about finding out what kind of technologies students use. And I would use this at the beginning of a classroom. I've used one similar to it before to find out how comfortable your students are with technology. So I created 5 questions. There's 6 on here, but it's really just the comments box. And I asked, what kind of technologies do you use on a regular basis? And it'll give you like 3 answers, and you can type in your answers. I use it all: computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones. I use some, my computer and my smartphone. I rarely use anything other than my basic computer. And then they just click on it. Is giving live lectures in your online classroom accessible to you? Yes, I use this frequently. And just different questions like this. And then when they are done, I say, thanks for taking my survey. They can put any additional comments, and then they click done. And that's the basics of the survey. So pretty easy. You can stick it in your classroom, and I'll show you how. But if you want to design a survey, you just click on Design Survey. And then you would click on, I'm sorry, that's the wrong spot. Okay. If you want to design a survey, you would click up here on Create Survey. You would give a title to your survey, like Classroom Observations. And then you could select a category if you wanted. This is education. And you'd say, let's go. And then voila, you are creating a new survey. This is where the title is, Classroom Observations. This is where you can add questions. You can upload a file if you already have questions in a file. You can add a comments box. You can make it multiple choice. There's tons of different things that you can do. So here we are with multiple choice. So let's say we want to ask, overall, how did you feel about this course? And then you can go to the questions and enter an answer choice. I really enjoyed the course. I did not enjoy the course. Or maybe I felt the course needed some improvements. So there's just you can set it up any way you want. Your answers can be anything you want. If you only want 3, you can get rid of that one. It gives you all kinds of things. Allow more than one answer to this question, anything that you want. And then you just add and go to the next question. So then here's our first question, and that's what it's going to look like up here. And then we're on our second question, and then you enter your answers, and so forth. So it's really easy to use. We'll go ahead and do one more question so we can set it up and I can show you what you do after. So sorry about that. You recommend this course to a friend? And then you could say yes, you could say no, or you could say maybe if some improvements were made. You know, that's just what I put. You can put anything that you want. And then we'll say save. Okay, so we're going to have this be a 2-question survey just because, you know, we're just making it just for the purpose of this professional development. So that's all we want to put on our survey. We're going to say done. And we're saving our survey. So then we want to go up to My Surveys, Classroom Observations. That's the one we just made. We can go to Preview the Survey, and it shows us a preview of what it looks like. And then when we're ready to send it out to the class, we go to Collect Responses. And you can send it by email if you want it to be private. If you want to put it within your classroom, like we talked about with the diabetes question for a discussion or, you know, classroom observation type thing, we can get a web link. And then here's the web link for your survey. So just copy this URL. And we'll go into a classroom. This is our Ross classroom. This is a classroom for patient education. Maybe we want to put it in the announcements. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, I don't think this one's letting me do it because I'm not in this classroom. I was just doing some work in it. So hold on just a moment, please. Okay, so maybe we want to put it in our announcements. So let's go to this course that starts next week for me. Go to announcements. We're going to add an announcement. Survey. Then you say, hi everyone, please take my survey. I mean, you can add more than that, but we're just doing it for the purpose of this. So there it is. I just copy pasted the link from our survey. Save it. Then when they go and they get this announcement, they can click on it and looky there, there's our survey. So that's really cool. You can put it anywhere. You can put it in your discussion. You can put it in an assignment. You can put it in announcements. You can send it in an email. And then I'm going to go to this other survey that we went to earlier because it's got some responses. This is that one about the technology that I showed you. You can go to Analyze Results, because I had some people actually take this survey, and see it tells you how many people use all kinds of technology and then how many people use some. So if you were doing the one on technologies that I showed you that was already completed, you could go back to your students and say 85% of the students in here use lots of technology and 14% only use a little bit, you know, so it gives you those ideas. So it's really interesting. It's very helpful. It's very educational, and it can be a great tool to use in your classroom. So that's the end of my professional development. I do hope that you will consider using surveys in your classroom at some point. It can be a really fun educational way to get information regarding your classroom, to discuss a topic, to learn more about a topic, to learn more about your students. I mean, to have a little fun even. It's, you know, the endless opportunities for the surveys. So I hope you enjoyed the professional development. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much.